All right. Hello, BrokerBin. Thank you everyone for joining us today to chat about the current state of the international logistics field with MCGlobe. We're so excited to have you guys on. MCGlobe is a global logistics partner specializing in the international transport of IT hardware, including servers, networking, and storage equipment. Founded in 2019, MCGlobe operates in over 130 countries, helping companies navigate complex challenges like importer of record, export controls, and customs compliance. Our speakers today are Mads Christiansen, who is the founder and CEO of MCGlobe, and Mads Gjoedsboel, Business Growth Manager. Together, they lead a team that supports tech companies, resellers, and data center operators in managing time-critical and compliance-heavy shipments around the world. So if you guys have any questions as we're going through this webinar, please feel free to drop them in the chat. And thanks to everyone who submitted questions in advance. So we're going to try to address those in this discussion during this webinar. If we don't get to it, one of us will reach out to you directly afterward to get your questions answered. We also plan to send a follow-up email with this recording link for the webinar and include email addresses for our speakers, so you can feel free to reach out to them as well. All right, Mads and Mads, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having us, Renee.
I'm excited. Okay, so as we go, I'm going to say Mads C and Mads G. Is that all right?
Yeah, that's absolutely
perfect.
Okay, that sounds good. That sounds good. Okay, you guys, tell us about MCGlobe and what was your inspiration behind launching your company, Mads C?
So I came to Singapore back in 2018 with another IT company, a Danish IT company. So my background is more in I would say originally logistics and transportation of IT equipment, but got moved into a sale of procurement and selling of the IT assets. During my time in Singapore, I saw a few cases where it was quite complex to arrange the pickups and also deliveries into a lot of Southeast Asian countries. So 2 years later, I decided to quit my job and start the MCGlobe with the focus on transportation, but of IT-related equipment. So we have been doing that for about 5 years now, going from myself, basically working from home during COVID,
Oh
to
gosh,
now 13 people in the company.
that's
So
great in 5 years.
yeah, exactly. It has been a great journey. A lot of things have happened, right? And I think particularly having the aspect of focusing on IT has also been helping us to sort of find our right way, because I have some experience already with the product itself. So I think that's a bonus where I can go out. I can help to sort of advise our customers in how to process this for the import. Does it contain battery? Where normal freight forwarding agents don't really have the right knowledge. So I think it can easily slip between two chairs
Sure.
of the full process.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And Mads G, what was your interest in joining the MCGlobe team?
Well, Mads and I, we know each other for many years, and Mads told me several times that I might be find it interesting to joining the second-hand IT market.
Okay.
And after Mads started MCGlobe, I was convinced to join him on this journey for the logistics side of it. Me personally, I have almost 10 years of experience in the Danish tax authorities.
Okay.
And I would say that knowledge combines, pretty well with what we're doing today. And together with our backgrounds, we have a pretty strong hand in transporting IT hardware and
Yes,
optimize the logistics flow for our clients.
that's great. A dream team.
Yeah, exactly. No, Mads is definitely a strength to the whole team because he got some experience with all the paperwork, the VAT compliance and all that. So
Oh my
so
gosh.
it's a great player in the whole company.
Yeah, that's super helpful. I can imagine to have that kind of administrative knowledge, especially
Yeah.
the detail, right? Well, give us a brief overview of the current state of international logistics with respect to IT hardware IT hardware trade? And what opportunities and threats should IT hardware companies be aware of in today's global market? It's a big question.
It's a big question. It's a difficult question. I'll try to reply as best as possible.
Okay.
So everyone might have seen the news from yesterday with Iran bombing
Yeah.
into the military base in Qatar, right? So and the past like week or two, there have been a lot of conflict in Middle East, especially between Israel and Iran. So those are things where it's very difficult to predict what is going to happen. But I think drawing parallels between what is happening nowadays and then 5 years past and maybe 5 years in front of us, this is what we need to sort of put into perspective of international logistics, especially with our needs of shipping IT hardware and also like the BrokerBin community, where we have a lot of like IT traders. The equipment, most of the people trade on BrokerBin will be enterprise equipment. So 10 years ago, it was a bit easier to import and export the equipment simply because it was not as intelligent. So it didn't have like the functions as today equipment. So an example can be like high performance GPUs, which can do a lot more than we actually think it can.
Okay.
Those ones are very restricted for certain countries to import. And most of the restrictions are coming from the US, of course. So
Yeah.
you need to have some kind of knowledge in where can we ship it? What agreements do we need to sign? Do our customer have the right import license? Um, Beside of that, we have networking electronics like routers, switches. So since more people are getting online, I think also what we can see is that more cyber attacks. It's like a growing tendency. So
Mm.
we don't have like people robbing houses. Of course, there'll likely be some, but the majority will be cyber attacks. And,
Okay.
and if this equipment, because it's very powerful, if it's falling into the wrong hands, then it can also be used for military purpose,
Oh,
which of course we don't want it to end up.
no. Yeah.
So maybe I can explain a little bit about what we think of the challenges, so like the threats.
Yeah.
Um, so basically, there will be like three to four. There's more like rule and regulation when it comes to paperwork. So you need to be more careful as a company exporting or importing equipment, what type of equipment it is. Beside of that, you should assume that delays in customs can happen simply because all countries are on high alert. So we want to make sure that what are we actually importing and what is the function of this equipment. On top of that, different countries has different rule and regulations. So it's important to understand, okay, what is the difference importing from Germany to Netherlands rather than, let's say, Germany to Dubai? What can we import? What can we not import? Um, I think those are like some of the basic opportunities where uh, you sort of like need to be a bit more consistent and a bit more knowledgeable within the global trade market.
Yeah. My gosh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it definitely seems like that the business environment for global trade is constantly shifting, as you're talking about. And just some of what you just mentioned, tariff sanctions and regulations and those kinds of things are popping up all the time. And so, and you've alluded to this a little bit, but how can IT hardware companies keep up with it all, and what can they do to mitigate that risk?
So I think companies needs to be a bit more aware of, for example, like the HS codes and also like the ECCN numbers. Um, those are more like related to the product itself.
Mhm.
So it's basically an HS code will be telling what is this kind of commodity. Is it a switch? Is it a server? Is it a laptop? And then for the ECCN, it's more related to what is the function of it? Is it restricted? So it's more related to the control of the export itself.
Okay.
And especially for the HS code, for some countries, it can be quite, significant what it means to import that kind of equipment with that specific HS code.
Okay.
I would say Bangladesh could be a good example where like the HS code really defines how much you need to pay in import duty and tax for that specific country.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And so let's look at a specific country as a case study. Walk us through the considerations an IT hardware company should be aware of before importing to or exporting from a particular country.
So we can take an example with, for example, Indonesia.
Okay.
It's a growing market. There's a lot of people in Indonesia, and you can see the growth in electronics per capita in the local market. So for companies that wish or want to import into Indonesia, the, the, the most easy practice will be shipping through Singapore. This actually means that you have a local Singapore to Indonesia shipment. So Indonesia will have less restrictions when it comes to like importing the goods. However, you need to make sure that the consignee in Indonesia has a business ID, so like a business registration. You need to make sure that you have the right import licenses for the equipment. Those are like two of the majority things you need to make sure of
Okay.
if you wish to import to Indonesia. Then on top of that, certain things are restricted, and they can be restricted either from the OEMs or they can be restricted from the government. So a lot of countries are having different regulations. We can take an example with the access points. So access point work within like a bandwidth of megahertz. And most countries will have like an accepted range where this bandwidth can work within. So if the equipment from Cisco is not approved for the local market, then it's going to be hard to import it. Um, I'm not like an expert in Cisco products, but I know a bit about it. So you have different Cisco access points for different regions. So you have access points for maybe Southeast Asia. You have access point for the Middle East. You have for Europe, and you have for North America and South America. So that's sort of like how you define what range you can work within. But those are some of the things you need to make sure of before you're importing into Indonesia. Other things can be like duties and taxes. No one really want to have a big surprise.
Right.
So if you're doing a shipment there, you don't want ending up like paying double the price of what you actually expected. That can kill your profit margin.
Of course.
So I think like in those events, it can be good to consult with like logistic companies that got the right knowledge in the local market.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. That is a lot of information to try to keep track of. And that is for one specific country. So every country obviously has slightly different or maybe largely different rules and regulations, correct? I mean, you have to
Yeah,
know.
correct. Yeah, and especially I would say that it's very much divided up in regions. So Europe are having their own Asia Pacific, maybe their own Middle East, their own. So it's very much like a mixture of things
Yeah.
you need to be aware of. But if you're operating in the whole industry of importing into different countries, you can easily get hold of it, and you also have an idea of, okay, importing into Brazil, there's like this list of things we need to be aware of. But if you sit as a business owner trading with IT equipment and it's your first time doing business in Brazil, then it might feel overwhelming because so many things. Yeah.
Yeah, of course, that is a lot. So in general, are there any best practices, regardless of the shipping destination that you'd suggest to the audience?
So I would say, bottom line, get the paperwork right,
Okay.
and do it every time. So like incomplete documents are, as we see it, the number one reason for delays.
Mhm.
So it's always a good idea to double check the commercial invoice, packing list, is everything matching? Is everything what you expect it to be when you ship it out? And then also Mads touched base about like the HS code and the ECCN before. Whether the goods are considered dual use or restricted in some areas in some countries. There's different rule sets of what is needed and what is not.
Okay.
Um, And then I would say, it's always a good idea to make a plan for delays, because we know how important it is, and we are like every time shipping as fast as possible, for our customers. But if a bad weather comes in, a storm comes in, there could be like strikes in some countries, and some of these things can happen, and we cannot predict that.
Right.
So it's always a good time to put in a small buffer of time. And I would say, regarding value-wise, under-declaring to save some duties or VAT can lead
Oh,
to way bigger problems than just pay what need to be paid in the first place. So it's safer and also, more professional to declare like the correct value,
right.
basically.
I actually think this might be one of the most common thing we see in the line of business, where some companies, because it's secondhand equipment,
Uh-huh.
it can have a base value which is slightly or a lot lower than the original manufactured value. But some countries don't really accept that. So we, on behalf of the customer, will have to fight a lot of fights with the customs officers at the destination country,
Okay.
proving that, okay, this device is only worth $1,000. It's not worth $10,000.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's interesting. So right, just declare what is accurate versus under declare. It will save you a lot in the long run.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, interesting. Okay. So what are the resources that you recommend IT hardware companies add to their toolboxes? I know you guys have a nice tools page on your website, but what do you recommend that people add to their own toolboxes?
Yeah, so we have a few nice tools, I would say, on our website. It's not
Yeah.
all made by MCGlobe. We have actually we have found some quite nice sources. So I would recommend going on our website under tools, and then you can find you can find the different tools that will help you to, for example, define what is the import duties and taxes in different countries. There's also like tools for tracking your shipment on multiple shipping trackers. So there's a lot of good stuff in there. And another one which is quite handy and actually quite new for us too, we have been building under our location page uh, some kind of like slide list with different countries inside it. And if you click on a particular country which you're looking for either like importing or exporting from or to, then you'll be able to tell more information about like what is the duties and taxes,
Uh-huh.
the different information about the country itself.
That's
So that might bring
fantastic.
more knowledge on the table.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's great. We
Yeah.
might have to use that once a year when we ship over for the roadshow. That's great. And
It's
when does it not make sense to partner with a freight forwarder like MCGlobe?
I would say when it comes to like e-commerce parcels, so smaller domestic shipments, we are not really in the world where we want to compete with UPS, FedEx, or DHL.
Sure.
We are doing some of the shipments, so it's not that we don't want to do that line of business at all. But if 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 that's what we should do, it's not really our target because it's so competitive.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, when it makes sense to partner up with someone like us, is more on like data center collections or deliveries. Most often because data centers don't have an import license, so we can
Okay.
help to act as the IOR, import of record, or the EOR, so the export of record out from the data center. It can
Oh,
also be, you might know it like delivery to end users or to system integrators without an import license. Uh,
okay.
so more of those like trickier opportunities. Uh, this could also be like related to ITAD projects where you need manpower to go on site to help direct the equipment, pack it on pallets, and get it exported out. Uh,
Right.
Same time, relocation, data center relocations. If you need like a domestic or international relocation of the data center, then that's something we can help with as well.
Okay. Wow. Wow.
I think, yeah.
Or simply if you have 4 pallets you need to ship from A to B, we can also help with that.
Sure. Yeah, that's great. That's great. And have you guys ever been in a situation where a company has gotten like stuck in a challenging import or export issue, meaning like you've had to step into it after it's already, the process has already started, so you can help to solve?
Yeah, we had an issue for a client importing to Canada.
Okay.
And now, as I talked a bit about before, that was the paperwork that was incorrect, and it turned out that the importing company on the commercial invoice did not have an import license, and we have our own import license in Canada. So in that case, we talked to customs in Canada and asked them to change the consignee to us, so we were the importer on behalf of the client. And on that way, we were able to make the import into Canada and help
Okay.
the client. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. That's great that you guys can step in and help. Probably better if somebody engages you from the beginning, however, right?
Yeah, you can say that, yeah. But so like worst case for this one, it would have had needed to be shipped back to origin, and
Yeah.
then another flight back the other way again. So
Yeah.
we were happy that we were able to help at customs at the border and on this one, but
Yeah.
it would have been more expensive in the end.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Anything else that you guys want to share, like specifically with the BrokerBin audience?
I think honestly, particular being a bit aware of the value you declare the items at is quite important if you want to ship into more exotic countries.
Okay.
That will really solve you for a lot of hassle. So again, like under declaring, it can cause a lot of troubles. We have ever had something stuck in Brazil. It was actually not the purpose of under declaration. Uh, we it was a shipment of a chassis where we only had the invoice from the supplier for the chassis only and not for the parts inside. So what happened is that it got stopped in customs and red line inspection. So there's a lot of things you have to coordinate, and it will delay the shipment a lot. So not saying that you will confiscate it immediately, but you'll just have to spend more energy on it, and likely there could also be fines involved that you will have to pay. So if you want to expand to new markets, make sure that it's a fair value you're using for the import, even that you might be selling it slightly lower than the approved value, because by the end of the day, it will actually solve you for a lot of problems.
Right.
And another thing, Renee, I think is also important to mention to companies is that what I've seen, bigger corporates are starting more and more to integrate into their ERP systems for
Oh,
access code per product, as well as like the ECCN. I actually think it's being mandatory in most of like US and Europe to have ECCN shown on your commercial invoice for export and import. So it can be a good idea to sort of like discuss it internally. How are we being prepared for having these information on a product level? So whenever it's time to really pull it off, you don't have to spend like hours and hours on getting it done.
digging for that information. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I think like another main thing to say about this is if you are in a doubt, then don't just ship it. Be sure and ask your logistics partner for advice or for help if you're not sure. If you have the slightest doubt, then it might not be the right way to do it. So that's
Right.
the way to try to optimize, either costing or like the transit for the equipment that you want to ship.
Yeah. It sounds like when you're, I mean, especially internationally, when you're exporting, when you're shipping to another country, the they're very particular. Like you can't just skip a field on the form, for example. I mean, that's very
Exactly.
particular, right? Like you have to check every box, right? Like this isn't
Yeah.
just let's ship it off and hope it gets through. Like it's not going to if you don't have the right paperwork or the right
Exactly. Yeah.
or
Yeah.
the right, yeah. That's a lot. That's
I
a lot
hope it's
you guys.
helpful.
Yeah. Great. So how can BrokerBin members connect with you?
I would say first off, BrokerBin portal.
Okay.
You can find our contact details on the portal itself. We should both be registered under the BrokerBin part side and also the service side.
Great.
So there should be plenty of options there. Obviously, LinkedIn, email. You can find our email on our website. We can also be connected on WhatsApp or Teams. So yeah,
Plenty
we
of ways to reach you.
yeah,
Plenty of
exactly.
ways to reach you. Yeah. Good. Well, thank you guys so much. We really appreciate this information. And I have to tell you, I mean, it's one of the most asked questions we're receiving these days is about shipping internationally for all of the reasons you mentioned in the beginning, because there's so much going on globally. And so this has been very helpful, I know.
Perfect. I
Yeah.
appreciate that we can give our input to the community and the BrokerBin team.
Yes. Great. We appreciate it. Well, thank you so much. Hope you guys have a better or good afternoon. I shouldn't say better. Hopefully you had a
Well,
good day and you have a good afternoon.
thank you so much, Renee. Same to
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Renee. Have a good
You
day.
guys take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.